take these off?
Thank you. I'm going to start off with one of my friends talking first, and got a few things he'd like to share with this group after the announcement he made yesterday. So I'll let Sean lead it off.
Thanks. Good seeing you guys, and thanks for inviting me up. Mr. Jones, 11 years ago, right around this time, I got a call from an unknown number, and on the other side of that phone was Mr. Jones. And that phone call, it changed my life. The support I received from that phone call until now has been immense. From my coaches, from Mr. Jones, from the Jones family, from my teammates. And I came in every day trying to repay that support. Every major injury that I used to get when I was demoralized, I used to get a call from Mr. Jones. And he would give me a pep talk. And after that phone call, I said, I'm coming back better than I ever was, and I'm going to help this team win. I can't tell you how much that helped me. Thank you for that. You never quit on me. My coaches never quit on me. My teammates never quit on me, and I'm so grateful for their support. I also was blessed to be part of this tradition, which is I always saw as a huge responsibility, and I tried to wear that responsibility on my sleeve every single day. And that's the one thing I want to impart to these young guys, man. It's such a blessing to be part of this, to walk in this facility, to be a Cowboy with the tradition that we have. And you guys make it that way. And I've been so grateful. And I love you guys. And thank you for everybody for all the support over the years. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Well, Sean, I really think I'm going to wait to say anything on a personal basis, Stephen, and it's not speaking for anybody, Coach, but I know these guys have several questions that they might want to address, and you have personal relationships with these guys. And I will say this, I've noticed the last day on your comments about your time with Sean Lee, and they're mirrored by everyone that I know on any side of the ball. That's what our experience has been here, to be around this person. So why don't we do that? Why don't we let you guys ask the questions the way you want to? I want to give all the time you have and all the time we have for him to share with his thoughts. My dream would be that relative to our organization, this wouldn't be the last time at all that we're sitting here in some manner together. And one of the great things about sports is that, especially with players, is that fleeting time that they're players doesn't necessarily make it into your relationship, your partnership, where you're going forward with it. And the facts are they're really just puppies when they leave here. And I know that's it, but they're really just getting going when they're not playing football. And it's just starting. And so usually you've readily been able to see on things away maybe from the football field or from other things. You want some of what they bring to the table. Sean, of course, is honestly, when I bought the Cowboys in 1989, I dreamed, I hoped to be associated with people like Sean Lee, because that's inspirational, and it's something that caused me to be there to begin with. I got a little of that in various ways over the years before the Cowboys, and so, Sean, it's not at all a delightful day because of what we'll be missing in you as a ball player, but it is a wonderful day to be sitting here with you. You're as frisky as you were when you walked through the door.
Frisky, no doubt.
Healthy looking as he can be, and he is just getting rolling. I'll tell you that right now. So that is a big day for all of us there, because you played one of them, what they call space collision positions. And that's a different game out there, folks. Okay, good. So really, if you will, that's it for me. Yes, questions?
Sean, you were talking about being demoralized at times because of the injuries, but you always work so hard not to let those define you, if that makes sense. Can you talk about it? Is that one of the things you take the greatest pride in, the fact you came back so many times and played at such a high level when you got back, when you reflect on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I took pride in being able to handle any injury, come back and play at the level that I wanted to play. And really, I went on a 3-year stretch of injuries where, actually I went on an 11-year stretch of injuries, but the 3-year stretch where I had my toe, I had my neck, I had my knee. And to be honest with you, I was, in the dumps, wanted to quit on myself in some ways. And then I would get calls from teammates. And then I'd get a call from Mr. Jones. And he picked me up off the floor. And I'm saying 3 times in a row, he's calling me being so positive. What type of owner calls and picks up a player off the floor like that when they need you the most? Or what type of coach sticks with you during all that? So that motivated me so much. And then it became a thing where, hey, I can come back from anything. I can play through anything, I can come back through anything, and I can help us in any situation. And that was my thing. I wanted to pay back that support. So I was going to do it on the field, but I wanted to do it in the meeting room. I wanted to do it anytime I walked in here.
That may answer this next question. After the Cowboys drafted Leighton, I know a lot of us were talking about, are you coming back? I know there were other teams, specifically a team in the NFC East, that was interested in you. Why did you choose to continue to play with the Cowboys, and why was bringing up Leighton so important to you and being such a voice in that linebackers room?
I mean, that was a way to pay back all the support I've gotten. I mean, when I got called with the draft, I had a partially torn ACL. They knew I had a partially torn ACL. They said, listen, if you come in and you hurt that knee, you're going to fix it and you're going to come back. I mean, I struggled with that in college. And when I heard that, that gave me the confidence to come in and be able to play and be able to perform. And so my goal was to help any way possible. My goal was to win a Super Bowl here. And at that point, I was going to help this young guy who could help us win, who's a great person, who wanted to be great. And for me, it was because I've had so much support and people helped me in tough times. I needed to help also.
How difficult was this decision to retire now, and what basically drove you to
I'm not gonna. If I'm being honest, I've been trying to avoid this day for a while. You want to play forever, and I told them, when you pour gasoline on a fire inside of yourself for 25 years, it's hard to put it out. And you watch yourself, and especially when you battle through things, you think, hey, I can figure it out, I can help. But I think you get to a point where I've been through a lot physically. And at some point, you need to look at it and say, hey, I need to move on, even though I've been blessed. And the only part is this team is going in a direction where they're going to win, and they're going to win big soon. And that's the thing that you always worry about, but you're happy to watch as you go out because you know you were part of it in some way.
You still have a passion.
Was that last game in New York? Did you know it then, or did you still think you might come back?
Well, I think it depends when you talk to me. I mean, the pendulum went back and forth between I'm done or I'm playing forever, which I think most guys probably describe that it's you think it's going to be an easy decision and then it's really not. You're conflicted because you love this team, you love playing, and you know you're going to miss it.
Sean, Jerry has a vision for you being a Cowboy. What are some of your options in your mind once you pull yourself off the beach?
Well, it's hard to get off that beach, Once you're out there and relaxing, it's fun. So I know right now I've been so lucky, I've been blessed, and I need you take a little bit of breather, you start to assess things. I know my wife likes being out on the beach more than I do, so I'm going to let her take control of that for a while, and we'll figure out things as we go. I know that being here, I love this organization, want to be involved, and want to help any way I can. I know that for sure.
Is there a timetable? And Mr. Jones, is there a timetable, or is this something that you'll work on over time?
Well, there's not a timetable, and frankly, it's hard to get used to him not staying straight out here and heading on back to the locker room. But frankly, those things have a way. Those things just have a way of seeking something positive. The energy's there, obviously, and his track record. I want him to always have anybody he's talking to or wanting to check about him. I want my name to be at the top of the list when he's listening it, and I get to do things that you guys get to see every day that I get to say that to people. I want to be there talking to you if you're 30 years from now. And so this really makes it easy to do and the best thing to do. This is how you build on. I'm a big believer that the legacy of the Cowboys, and certainly in this case, his story, it can be a big part of our future.
We're talking around it, Sean. Do you want to coach? Everybody's been saying that, since you've been a player, and that you're natural for the position to move into coaching. Is that something, when you take this time off and get off the beach with your wife, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I'm going to consider. I think anytime you get in, like, the coaching, the type of work they do, it's incredible how hard they work and what they do. And if I'm ever going to get committed to something, I'm going to need to be full in no matter what, knowing me and how I would approach it. But right now, I think it's a good time for me to just step away. And until I'm ready to make that commitment full out, which is a possibility. Believe me, I love this game, and I love being around it. And I think there's a period right now where I'm going to miss playing dearly. And I think I need to get over that a little bit for a while, take some time with that, and then maybe make a decision on the back end of that.
What was your conversation with your teammates who respect you so much when you finally made this?
Well, it's amazing how we have all these young guys here, but I look to them for inspiration, starting with Dak. Dak got in halfway through my career, and I learned so much from him. Even when he got in, just how positive he is, how he faces adversity head on and never flinches and does it with such a cool demeanor. And so to me, I was thanking them, and I think we loved being in the locker room with each other. I say it almost felt like a high school locker room with guys that I grew up with, that you had that tied bond from being together and fighting together, and love being around each other. We had so much fun, and so it was more just talking about memories and talking about how lucky we were to be around each other.
On this memory of Sean Lee, when you reflect back on his career, is there a singular game or a moment? Because I know you can't call every player after they've been hurt, but clearly there was something about Sean that you felt the need to do that.
Well, I'm sorry, these masks without the lips.
Down here.
Okay. Not every player. We obviously understand that's one of the toughest times anybody has is as a player to get hurt. But this guy's always been inspirational too. On the other end, he's not adding how much inspiration you hear, just like you're hearing on the other end. And I was recently with Major General Pat Brady, the highest decorated Medal of Honor winner there is, the helicopter pilot. And what he wanted to be, he grew up in South Dakota, he wanted to be a business guy. And he pictured his life as being one that you'd go out and be doing selling, or that's all that he wanted to be. And he said, there I ended up in Vietnam on the side of mountains with a helicopter rescuing people and all of that. And so these people that are really special have a way, it just has a way of finding itself. And if you certainly, from my standpoint, I just want to, if I can get near it and be a part of it, I want something to do with it. That doesn't take a lot of logic to go through that. And so, I'm just, he is the kind of guy that you want to hear what's amazing is that the way he sounds today is the way he would sound in the dressing room after a game when they just told him that he might be out for the year. And he would come up and I say, I just feel like I let you down. I could have done more. I'm so sad. That's just the way he approaches things. And but boy, that's especially in the day and time we live today, that is something that I want to be a part of, just on a personal basis.
Sean, what do you hope you pass on to younger guys?
I talked a little bit about that, the responsibility of upholding this tradition and the sense of urgency that you want to come in, wear that on your sleeve every single day. I mean, it's a huge responsibility, but it's a great responsibility. And every day you walk in here, come with that sense of urgency that you belong to this, you should be proud of it, but take that to the next level. I mean, that's the thing that I try to do every day. Hey, how can I help? Because I've had so much help, and I've had some of the old guys reach out during the time. To be part of that is so special, and it moves quick. I know that's cliche, but it flies by. You think about how fast things can move. Like I said, that call on draft night, that doesn't seem that long ago. And take advantage of that at all costs, because you're lucky to be here.
Sean, who can do that on this team? Tyrone's gone, you're gone, Jason Witten a couple years ago. Who do you see on this team can kind of take it?
an immense amount of leaders on this team with unbelievable qualities. You talk Dak, you talk Zach Martin, you talk Leighton, DeMarcus, you talk Jalen, you talk all these guys, Antoine Woods, who has come in here the last 3 years and just played extremely hard. There's so many guys, and even the young guys, to see some of those guys, Trey, some of these guys step up. All these guys have it in them. And it's now, what I'm excited to see is to watch them step up, own it, and be able to dominate. I can't wait to watch this team, this defense, and what we're going to do, especially being healthy this year.
Stephen, when you are in the draft right now preparing, how do you find someone like Sean when you talk about not just the way they play, but just as you're hearing him talk about the responsibility, the leadership, those kind of things that, you don't always, it takes a while to just figure out, if a guy's got that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think at the end of the day, these guys are trying to give us a feel for what type of leadership skills these players have. Obviously, you turned on Sean's tape at Penn State and he just jumped off the tape at you. He's a first-round pick, and, when you were watching the tape roll, you just felt it. But as far as really getting a feel for their leadership skills, what they're going to be all about when they walk in the building, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. And obviously, Sean had huge grades on his football character, on his leadership, all the things that he could bring to the table. But till you really get to sit in the room with these type of men, and we've had a handful of them, and Sean's on one hand at the top. But who would ever know? Because most of these great players, in a good way, have a selfish streak in them. Never saw that in Sean Lee, whether it was about coaching his young teammates. I heard a lot of pros in my life say, "Well, they're trying to, steal food off my table. I've got to keep the number one job." Sean was always the first guy to be coaching the young guys that we brought in here. His business, as Jerry said, he was just torn apart when he couldn't play in a game, and he reflected that when we had discussions. He came to us, "Hey, I need to do something with my contract here. I didn't get to play the full season last year." He's always the first one to step up, be totally unselfish about trying to help this team win. And I certainly know, as great as his career was, I know what he struggled with a lot, which is, the last couple of guys that we've had retire is that we just hadn't won a championship. And I know that certainly was at the top of his list. That's why he was unselfish. But, if you could really bottle up what's in him, you could bottle up what's in some of these, great gentlemen that we've had here come walk through these doors. That's what we're looking for in the draft. We say, hey, this guy may have some character traits that are like Michael Irvin. Well, a lot of times, they fall far short of that. They have character traits like a Jason Witten, like a Sean Lee. It's easy to kind of throw that out there, but for them to actually live up to it is just, it's rare that you really get, when you're really looking for elite football character, it's hard for them to live up to those type of expectations when you kind of got that bar set high. When we've been fortunate enough to be around some of the great players that have put on a Cowboy uniform.
Rich, help us out. Rich, help me out on something. Do you remember, and I'm not going to embarrass you, Sean, right about the time, Sean, I'm going to embarrass you for sure. Right about then, Coach, you might remember it. ESPN came out with a documentary and showed Sean in his home with his brother and showed his background and his older brother. And his brother was talking about how he just looked up to it. And it's really one that, again, and I'm not going to embarrass you either, Sean, I don't think I am, but it's one that, as we are looking at the end of his career here, that we ought to refresh ourselves. I want to look at it again. My point is, he played to that for all of his career. Just what that ESPN story said, that was Sean Lee, and he played to it or above it his entire career. You just don't see or get to be a part of something like that often. But it was a fabulous documentary, and it was done while he was a player at Penn State. And influenced us when we saw it.
Sean, you talked about it's going to take some time for you to process not playing anymore. You talked about talking to your current teammates. Did you talk to any of your former teammates that have retired, like a Jason Witten, just kind of, how did you handle that part of it, not playing football?
I talked to them and I reached out just to thank them. To have some of the guys who were here as guys who would lead and I could follow at such a critical point in my life, I just reached out and thanked them. And we had great conversations, and I have gotten some advice about it. And I think they all come up with the same thing. It takes time. It's a process. You spent a long time playing this game. You love every part about it. You love practice. I love linebacker drills. You love, when I walked in, I saw the guys getting ready for the Tuesday metabolics, which is really one of the hardest conditioning things we do. I'm like, they're doing 5 of them. It's brutal, but man, I wish I could be out there. They all say it's a process, but when you look back and you see how blessed you are, that'll make it nicer.
You've talked about how you're addicted to playing and the practice. Do you have an idea of what will replace that addiction in the short term until you decide what you're going to do?
I've been playing basketball left and right, and I'm terrible right now. My shot is short. I can't, and I love, I've been playing a ton and trying to find that competitive outlet. So, but right now it's basketball, and it's not going well. So I got work to do.
Did you pick up the phone and call Jerry when you made that decision? How did you find out about it, Jerry?
We talked and just talked, and it was just I'm going to say it this way, it was just there.
Yeah, absolutely.
He really was struggling, certainly with wanting to continue playing, and there's no way in the world that if Will would have it there that you wouldn't see him back out there. But I think by mutual agreement, we just decided it was time.
Yeah, and
Is there a way to say it?
Absolutely, and when you haven't won a championship, you're constantly thinking, man, I haven't done it, and you want to keep pushing, and it gets to a point where the game slowly leaves you, and the situation on the team leaves you, and you really assess physically where you're at and what I've been through. Ultimately, that was the right decision. As much as some days you wake up and it feels like the complete wrong decision, but most of depending on the time, like I said, it feels right, and the further I've got away from it, the more right it feels.
John, if they do practice in Oxnard, do you anticipate making a drive down from Santa Barbara maybe this summer to check
it's an easy drive. That's an easy drive, and being able to see it, and being able to walk in that locker room, and that's another thing you miss. The first day of training camp, the first day of pads in Oxnard, the stereo blasting, everybody going nuts, getting ready, taking all the coffee and pre-workout to get juiced up, and then afterwards sitting on an off night in the back. There's a little table outside behind the trainers, a couple pops, and able to have some fun together. So that'll be something I'll miss, but I'll definitely stop in and say hello.
Mike, what was your thoughts about Sean looking from afar when you were at Green Bay?
I mean, I've always had great respect for Sean. I go back to the Penn State days. I was a big Pitt fan, so I had to learn to like him once he became a Cowboy. But I'm just kidding there. That's humor. But no, Sean is. I mean, I just want to say this: Sean Lee today is the same person that I've had the opportunity to work with this past year. I mean, his energy, we're going to miss it. He brings it the same every day. And that's really, watching him from afar. I mean, we obviously had great respect for him when we played against him. He was the focal point, frankly, in the game plans because you couldn't just run a normal combination block to him. I mean, he was going to read it, off the first step of the guard or the uncovered lineman. So those types of things. So I always had great respect for him. You always follow the Western PA guys. That's something that's just kind of in our blood. Sean and I've had a lot of conversations about those times back there, but have great respect for him, and I do look forward to hopefully the day he does come back into the building.
Sean, can you talk about the transformation of you being a Steelers fan growing up to being a Dallas Cowboy?
Oh, yeah. As soon as I got that call, you're going to take me? I'm a Cowboy fan, and that's from day one when I talked about the graciousness and loyalty. I mean, to take the risk on me then. Right when that happened, I said, this is unbelievable that they're willing to take this risk on me. And that's always stuck with me. And then, unfortunately, there was more of that. But to me, that instantly the fact that they're going to say to me, hey, we want you, and no matter what happens, we're going to stick with you. And I've been converting any family who comes in with anything, cousins, friends with Steeler gear, man, we send them out the house. We're not dealing with that. You know what I mean? Who do you know on the Steelers? Nobody. Take that out of here. We've loved it. My parents have loved it. My whole family's loved it. It's been a dream. It really has.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate you very much.
Sean.
See you guys. I'll see you back. Coach, what was it you were talking about? What was that? PA? What
Western
was that?
PA.
Western PA?
What is that?
Western Pennsylvania?
Well, is that Western PA? Western
Yeah, Western Pennsylvania.
Hell, I thought you were talking about L.A.
LA?
Lower Arkansas.
Those are the guys we follow.
No doubt.
All right. Okay.
Jerry and Stephen, can you talk about that? There are some scenarios when you look at this draft where some people believe that the entire defensive class could be there at number 10, that no defender will go off the board before you pick at 10. Do you think that is a likely scenario to unfold or unlikely?
I think that we've got a good chance to have a top defensive player, the top or one of the top, be there at 10. And it's, for me, I know from the past that when you start talking about being where there's one of the top, whether it be at a position or whether it be at one side of the ball or the other, that's a lot of action that can happen there. You can get a lot of phone calls. If that phone is not ringing, that's them not calling, so to speak. Somewhere in there's an old country song, but seriously, that'll start that activity. And so just as far as laying awake at night thinking about what might happen, I find myself thinking about that phone ringing about that time too. And so, but that's a consideration. We are well prepared, I'll say that, because Stephen and Coach and everybody has been involved in this process, and so we're very well prepared. I couldn't help, I'm going to allude to just one thing real quick. The question you asked Stephen about does seeing a Sean Lee remind you at this time how you're trying to dig into these guys and see what they're about. And boy, Sean Lee, if you recall, had a lot of digging into how he became what he became. And boy, it had an intangible out the intangible out the intangible going on for him in his deal. But I was noticing reading this morning about Tyron Smith. And the reason Tyron Smith is here is because when he was 9, 10, 11, and 12, he was locked up in buildings in L.A. But now that's the way you did it when you work overnight and when you're cleaning buildings. But he was locked up in those buildings literally, and he would work all night to a reasonable time. And his parents were in the cleaning of the big building business out at that time. And so you were sitting there talking about a potential Rhodes Scholar. You were sitting there talking about a lot of qualifications. But there, obviously, physical credibility all over the place with him. He was so proud of his intangible, which was his work ethic and working. And he was proud. His coaches would try to think of excuses for him not to have to go to work because he might not have as much sleep. But he grew up. Well, you talking about a guy's buttons pop off when he would talk about that work that he did in those buildings up there at that particular time. And that kind of stuff really was impressionable at the time. And so getting to know these guys, getting to look at their unique backgrounds and what have you, to me is actually the most important thing. And I don't know how you spot that one particular. This guy was unique. He's unique. Tyron Smith's unique in terms of how they got here as young guys.
Yeah.
You know these guys, you talk about Tyron in this day and age where you don't get to bring them in and like you used to do with the 30 visits and really sit down and see them face to face. How different is that? Has that made it more difficult to get to know them and get those stories? I mean, you can only see so much on a Zoom call, I guess.
Yeah, no, for me, I'm going to speak quick and I'm going to let these guys talk. For me, it's better. I've gotten to know these guys better Zoom calling. You're looking at each other in there. You're kind of somehow you're working out. You're expressing yourself maybe a little more candidly than you would otherwise. And so I thought between last year and this year, this is the best I've understood these players from my perspective.
I agree. I think really learning from last year, it's much better this year. You're able to talk to more players in this format. So now, I mean, it's untraditional because when you are looking for Sean Lee, you know, the standard and those type of intangibles, I can't say enough about our scouting department and the way they teed everything up with the virtual meetings. I mean, we've been able to get through, from my personal platform as a head coach, a lot more players. So I've been impressed with the process.
Jerry, when Parcells was here, I remember the press conference he had back over at Valley Ranch, and he spoke about what he was looking for in the draft. He said, I don't have time for these certain players. He was looking for guys who were captains and guys who were leaders where they were. Do you still believe in that kind of philosophy in drafting and the kind of guys you're looking for as you're talking about, and Stephen, you spoke about elite football character?
Well, the answer is yes. Yes. Captains are just to name what you just named. Captains usually are associated with a lot of respect and associated with usually it's hard to fake it in that room when you're one of those, and so that's usually a good sign of character to not be trite. But certainly, Bill was into what's inside the guy. A guy like Whitten, he was really into it. And I don't want to take anything away the fact that he was into it. To me, it is more of how to get to it or how to see how it's going to relate to a situation with our team. And that's the trick, because it does come in different ways. And we've had some great leaders around here. Really, I've been associated with some great leaders with the Dallas Cowboys. And their leadership was not that evident when we were evaluating them. They didn't have that in their resumes. You had to kind of look for those kinds of things. Sean was an exception. Sean Lee.
Yeah, I think it's it's gut wrenching. It's painful to earn the top 10 pick, but once you get there, then it's enjoyable to think that we're going to get to pick the type of player I think we're going to be able to pick. And we've done a great job, as Mike mentioned. Will has leading the scouts and our coaching staff, and Jerry and I, in terms of getting us all the information, that we can possibly take in. What you do expect from that 10th pick is you hope you get a little bit of all the above: elite football character, great skill. As you go in the draft, mid-first round, late first round, top of the second, they don't necessarily check all the boxes, and so that gets difficult. But we're certainly looking to get the type of football player there at the 10th pick that can check all the boxes.
Stephen, why would you use the word gut-wrenching when it comes to the 10th pick? Is that just because of the
No, how we earned it, how we got there. You don't get to have the 10th pick unless you obviously struggled the season before. So that was a tough season for everybody in the organization to earn that 10th pick. But once you have it, there's nothing painstaking about it. You're getting to pick up there, and in this draft, I really do believe we can find an elite football player with elite football character, that's healthy, that's everything you want. When you put everything into the mix, you're going to be pleased. I think we're going to be pleased with the type of player we're able to pick there.
Jerry, you talked about, did you have a chance to get a top defensive player with that 10th pick or option there, but with the run on quarterbacks, that could push a tight end because some of those offensive tackles down. How do you balance focusing on needing to improve those defense with some of those top offensive players that can be there at 10, as well as that while the trade market could be higher, could you take an offensive guy?
Yeah, we should. I think the real thing to do is don't be stupid over your needs. Just don't be ridiculous. And last year, Lamb was there, and we hadn't planned to take a receiver, but he was the best player, and he was a player that we immediately had a vision for how he could come in here and help us win. And so I think it's without looking like you're all over the place here and being ambiguous with my answers to you. But you just want to be ready and prepared to read the circumstances. We were this morning visiting, and I was visiting with Stephen, and we were spending our time going over a general thing about where you are with the cap and how the cap influences us on not only the salaries, but how important the draft picks are to have cap management. And that if you go out and go get a free agent and spend a lot of money there and give up a draft pick doing it, you have really doubled up on going downhill. Because the way that you work under the cap is to use draft picks. And those draft picks are the best values you've got. And so that if you give up picks plus the salaries that are attendant, which are lower with those draft picks, then that one is a red flag for you right there. Well, I wanted, for me personally, selfishly, and I don't know, I guess we've been over that 1,000 times in our lifetime, over this cap.
Absolutely.
I wanted one more shot of it this morning. Just to remind me that is on a personal basis, I wanted to hear about it. Well, that sounds like something, a waste of time. It's not. It's not. And so that's what, to me, that we're basically doing over these next 2 or 3 days is just reminding ourselves so that when we get on that clock and we have the opportunity. What's exciting about the 10th pick is you could very easily get an opportunity to do something unconventional here. And so that takes, but we've had it before, and we've gotten great players by doing that.
You're more likely to go down than up.
Not necessarily, but I mean, I don't want to say that, but certainly, let me say this. Up is in an area that I would say a couple of things are up there, usually. And one of them, we just really made a big effort to get signed up with the Dallas Cowboys at quarterback. And so it's pretty obvious there that we've decided how we're going to go into the future with our key quarterback decisions. And I'm talking about up at the top with the quarterback. I'm not precluding quarterback down the line, but up at the top. And so I think it's fair to say that there are teams that could create something for you to think about because of the position we're in with quarterbacks in this draft.
Like, given that the team's coming off the worst defensive performance in franchise history in terms of points allowed, you have a new coordinator in Dan Quinn. Everybody expects that this will be a defensive-oriented draft at the start for you guys. What's Dan's role been in evaluating the defensive side of the ball? What will it be in making that final determination on what you do as you pick? And what are the sort of common traits that you guys are looking for on that side?
Well, I would say number one, the whole coaching staff's involved in the process. So I can only compare it to my prior experience. So, and it's a process that we've all had a chance to, make evaluations and opinions. Dan's been very involved in the defensive component. We do profile tapes, and which is normal anytime you're in the first year of a defense or offense, just to make sure that we're all seeing it the same way, talking the same language and so forth. But to me, 10 picks is is so exciting, particularly where we are as a football team. You know, if you look at the veterans that have left us this year, that's over 55 years of NFL experience that has left our locker room. And that's a statistic that I've looked at every year because I've come from a draft and develop program, and when you get above 40, 45 years of experience that leaves your locker room, that's high. So the 10 picks, last year's draft class, a number of veterans coming back healthy. You know, this off season, our guys have a great vibe. Everybody sees what's in front of us, and these 10 picks, or ever how it shakes out, will be very important. I totally understand the desire and some of the obvious needs and point to the defensive side, but I think the fact that we have that many picks and with some good fortune, things fall our way, I think we'll be right where we want to be come Saturday night.
Coach, given that obviously there are needs on the defensive side of the ball, but you have 10 picks, and if you have a player, say a tight end, that's pretty close there, could you guys talk yourself into offense again, like you did with CeeDee Lamb?
Well, I think that's why you have all those conversations. I mean, that's why you put so much time into it. I refer to it as laps. We took 2 laps this weekend. Took another one yesterday. So I mean, those are all the conversations you have, and because every selection, that high affects what's next. I know you don't want to. BPA is the best player available. I mean, we all would like to go that way, but obviously we're building a football team. We do have a new defensive coordinator. The speed and energy that we need to get more of it. As a football team, we're a dome football team. We have excellent size and length, and is speed something that I think would definitely help us. As we go through these draft prospects.
Stephen and Mike, how do you weigh the fact, Mike, you've talked about having the 10 picks, and Stephen, you have 2. How do you weigh that quantity versus the leverage it gives you in the draft to potentially move up, especially on the second day and third day to the top of rounds, to pinpoint something versus just keeping all 10?
Yeah, I just think, that's all in the preparation. I mean, one of the things that's easy with the 10th pick is there's not a lot of machinations that go on in terms of who might be there. When you're picking in the 20s, you're a little bit kidding yourself a little bit, when you start going through every little particular option. I mean, as hard as we worked it last year, I don't think we ever had a mock draft where CD was going to be sitting there for us. So surprise, surprise. But I think the biggest thing is just the preparation that we put into this and really getting a great value for where the players, that we kind of are eyeballing on the board. When is the right time to wait and let them come to you? When's the right time to move up? Of course, you make your biggest you get your biggest value if you're making moves at the very top of the draft. I mean, first, second round picks. Once you start to drop on down from there, it's hard to accumulate picks, things of that nature. But if you ever feel like there's an opportunity to move down and you can pick up something significant in value, it's usually done in those first, second, and third rounds. But I just think our preparation's been really good. I think we know the players really well, and where there's groups of players and where they sit, that might be advantageous to us. And, we've got a great group here between Jerry and Mike and Will and our team that I think can give us great input, and we can make a quick decision. We don't have to, we don't have to do a lot of polling in the room as to who's for this, who's for that. I think we're getting a great feel for that, and I think we've done a good job of that in the past. I think our draft record, our draft history with Will has been really, really strong in terms of how we've drafted, and I think we can repeat that again starting Thursday.
There's no combine, so medical became more complicated to gather. Pro days are being run on different surfaces and different wind conditions and the sort. What was it like as a front office and coaching staff to gather the intel that you needed while not having Indianapolis?
Medical is the number one shortcoming.
Yep.
Medical. We're not as prepared as I'd like to be for medical. It's just the process is harder to do than having everybody, that aggregation of players there at Indianapolis and all the doctors and everything involved in getting that. There's no question that I don't have the same feeling about the time, the 40 times, with them going on different surfaces all over the country and different clocks. I don't have the same question about the 40 time. It won't get down to that, though, is the point. It could get down to the medical. It really does, and does often get down to the medical. But to me, those are the biggest shortcomings. It has been great. Mike said when he was at Green Bay, they didn't have that kind of input into the draft process. But last year and this year, and it's been great to see Mike work with his staff. And work with our staff. And he is unabashed about expressing himself about the preference of a player. But you could sit here and have a player at almost the same grade, a 1.31 and a 1.32 and a 1.33. And if it was a receiver, one of them could be an outside guy that's 6'8", and another one right below him or right above him be 5'9". And another one right below him be a great situational, but not necessarily be the guy that's going to be in the flow of your offense. You could have, and so there you got the exact same grade, and you got a lot of different things you're thinking about on that particular player. So that's where the draft board says that's that, but it really doesn't help you in terms of at that particular time. So all of those things you better discuss. Him and Quinn and his guys have been outstanding about going through all of those aspects of how you have the same grade, even have a better grade, yet the guy have a better feel for what we want with the team if that particular player, because you've got two more that can do the other thing, can do a better job. Again, illustration. And so you got to sit there and decide at that time when you go, you've got to decide what is in the best interest for everything, and that's what you do. That's what you do. The best part for me in decision making is to see the dialogue going back and forth between the coaches and, if you will, the scouts. Funny thing now, the scouts don't see many of these players in person. They don't see them practicing or don't see them playing. Okay, do they see some of them? Yes, but not really, not like they once did. But they've made up for that with a lot of extra work, watching tapes and a lot of things like that. So we understand the players, but you've got to take that in consideration too. If a guy's had not very much exposure, guess what? He may not have played last year. May could have, but he didn't. Okay, he didn't because he decided to opt out. So you haven't seen him since the 6 plays he ran when he was a sophomore. Let's hold him while you're getting ready to make that decision right there.
When reports come out say you're infatuated with a guy like Pitts, is that legitimate, or do you just
not legitimate? Not legitimate. But when I say it, I am. Anybody in this draft is impressed. Okay, probably an exaggeration is fascinated. I may have used the word myself, but the point is, it's a distortion. For this draft and where we are there. It implies something that's just not the case. We're not going to go in there and spend inordinate collateral or value to maneuver up there so that we can get Pitt. I mean, to get him. Now, in any way, I will tell you right now, I have a good assessment from Mike and everybody that's in Stephen and everybody that's involved. I've got a good assessment of whether or not Pitt could help us win a Super Bowl or not, whether he could help us, and as opposed to 2 other players over there, because you probably, if we did end up with Pitt, would have had the opportunity to get 2 for 1.
So Jerry, going back to kind of what Michael was talking about medical, how do you view players who did not play last year, or really for all 3 of you? How do you grade them?
They're compromised. I'd much rather have seen the reps and the plays that they've got. Coach, help me here. How many plays in a normal situation would let's say a defensive tackle by playing last year as opposed to not playing last year if he'd have played all of his college games?
I mean, 71 plays a game, 10 games,
700 plays.
700 plus plays.
And plus, usually those players, if they're the type player you want, are better from their junior to their senior year. Fair to say?
No, absolutely.
That's what you look for. And so the point is, it's you don't have as much information when they didn't play last year.
Jerry, when you talked about the medical information and you don't have as much of it, you've taken chances on guys like Jalen and even Sean had the ACL coming out. Are you less likely to take that kind of gamble this year than you would have in the past? Because you don't have that, even with the limited information you would have.
I'll hold you to your word. Just said that kind of gamble, okay, which was referring to Lee. Not less likely. Not less likely. All of the things that came together to take the one on Lee. We used our second pick on him. We had him as in the top. We had him in our top 15.
Yeah, first round.
First round, top 15.
I forgot how many players
we
had.
got him in the second round, and so not less likely to do something like that.
Jerry, there's a couple guys in this draft, Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn, who their fathers both played in the NFL. I was wondering, how much does that factor in when you're looking at a player? Does that help them, their case, when you guys are maybe debating?
For me, it does. Yes, it does. I believe in osmosis. Sitting around the breakfast table, it works. We ask all the time, are they a coach's son? We ask that all the time. It really helps to hear it all day long, every day, and have it in your fabric to have been a part of that. There's an awareness factor that would look to, but absolutely, personally, and I think in general people, but we make that a point of reference. His dad was Horn that played, had a lot of time in New Orleans and was a great competitor, fair to say.
I coached him for 10 years. I coached his father for 10 years.
Hey, Paul, while we got you here, just curious what the latest is on Dak, his rehab, how he's assimilating with the team. Kind of goes for all three of you. Just what, do you have any update on him?
Who did you ask? I'm sorry. And did you ask me or did
all three of you?
Yeah, all of us, Steve.
Well, where we sit right now, I mean, couldn't be happier. I mean, I'm sure y'all get peeks out on the field. I mean, he's just doing an amazing job of his work ethic. Of course, it's contagious with his teammates. One of the things that stuck out about Dak's leadership last year is, he was right back in the facility right after he was hurt, and he's just his leadership is elite. And, of course, he's doing that out on the field, and he's just making a tremendous amount of progress, and we feel he'll be 110% ready to go.
Is that, you believe 110%? What do you anticipate him doing in the offseason, Mike?
Well, he's made a lot of progress lately. Actually, I was able to watch him work Saturday, and it is probably his most extensive work so far. So he's throwing, he's throwing now. So they're doing the footwork drills. So he's made a lot of progress. Very disciplined in his regiment. He's here almost every day. So I'd say he's right on track, or maybe even a little ahead of schedule.
OTA, mini camp, do you expect him to do 11 on 11 work?
I'm just hoping we have the OTAs. So.
If you have the OTAs. Stephen, when you're looking at corners and you're evaluating them, what matters more, playmaking ability or not giving up very much?
I think both, especially, when you're picking 10th. You want these guys to check all the boxes. You want them to have the length to obviously deter the quarterback from throwing it that way. But if they do, then you want them to have great ball skills and great playmaking ability to turn the ball over. I mean, Mike, I think he says it about every 15 minutes, get the ball. And, we did a good job of that last year on defense. We actually, had some really good numbers on getting the ball. What we've got to do, obviously, on offense is protect it a little better. But finding these defensive guys that can go get the ball are a premium, and certainly the top guys at the draft, in this draft, not only have the length and the ability to, get with these bigger receivers, tight ends if they need to, and not only prevent the ball from coming their way, but if they happen to throw it their way, then certainly can make a play on the ball, track the ball, pick it off.
What's your preference, zone or man corner?
For us, I'll let Mike, he's the coach.
Got to be able to play both in this league. I think you look at all those things. When it comes to all these positions, and especially the corner position, we want to be more aggressive. Obviously, we got to play more man and zone, match, coverage, ever how you view it. So, I mean, that's a precedent. But it's really the development, the upside. And I think that's probably been the biggest challenge, outside of the medical, is because you don't have as much information, particularly if a player only played 4 games last year. All the different moving targets is really getting a really good assessment on where their ceiling is, because you have to develop these young players. I mean, the draft is the backbone of your roster development. Once again, I can't say how important it is, not only at the defensive back position, but all these draft picks that they have a chance to develop, and because it's going to be a big part of our roster moving forward.
So what do you look for when you're looking at a defensive back? Because we kind of haven't talked to Dan. So So what do you guys look at?
Well, I think you look at all players, whatever positions. You can defensive back, you break down the physical, the measurables, and then the mental, you get a grade on that, and then the emotional component. But as far as the length, short area quickness, I'm very focused on the ability to make plays on the ball. I think the ball skill grade is something that we were paying close attention to, because it's about the football. I mean, the turnover differential is the most important focus of our football team outside of winning the game. So that'll be reflected in all of our defensive players, especially the defensive backs.
Steven, do you feel like your backup quarterback is on the roster right now, or do you feel like you got to go into the draft thinking maybe get somebody behind that?
I'll also let Mike speak to that, but I will say this, back to the what I always use is I think we're always player acquisitions 365 days a year. And if we see a situation that makes sense for us from a salary cap standpoint and upgrading what we have on the roster, or can create a more competitive situation, then we'll certainly look at that. So I think that's like any position on our team is a work in progress, but Mike can speak to our quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think definitely we have 3 young guys that we're enjoying developing. All 4 quarterbacks have participated in everything that's been available to them, so they're making progress. I'll just point to Andy Dalton. I think when he was acquired last year, and that just speaks to you're always looking to upgrade that position, whether it's by the draft, free agency. But I would say we definitely want to add some competition to the room.
Steven, how have Leighton's injuries and the fact that 5th-year option is now fully guaranteed at the time you got to put it on it impacted that decision that you have coming up?
Well, anytime you make a decision like that, it's I go back, it's the full body of work. Certainly not unlike Sean, Leighton's had some unfortunate injury situations, and certainly we'll take a look at that, and then put it all into the mix in terms of where we're going to be under the salary cap, and not only this year but next year, and make a decision that's in the best interest of our team. Whether we exercise an option or not, it doesn't mean at all that we're not interested in, if we didn't, keeping Leighton around here. Obviously, if we do, that solidifies that he's here 110%, but certainly we'll get in a room and go over that and make a decision.
Because last year was so different, is there anything about this year's draft in terms of on draft day, the setup you guys have in the room, will anything be different, or are you guys going back to the way it was 2 years ago, same number of people in there and things like that?
Won't be the same number. They're going to have some limitations on the number of people we can have in the war room, but we'll be all together in the war room. The question will be the final number the NFL comes up with, and be a little more restricted than probably we had back 2 years ago.
Who will be in the war room as of now?
We won't get into the details of that until we're understand exactly what the parameters are and how many people we can have in there.
100% vaccinated.
What's that?
100% vaccinated.
Who is up there?
No, in the war room.
Right.
You gonna miss being on the yacht?
What?
You gonna miss being on the yacht?
100% vaccinated.
Are you gonna miss being on the yacht?
100% vaccinated.
Mike, several teams across the league have boycotted voluntary workouts. What have your players been doing, and how helpful has it been to have players in the building, given how restricted your first offseason was with players?
Our players are here. They're committed to what's available. You know, we're obviously well in tune with the guidelines of what an off-season season program looks like and what you can do for your players. So we feel very good about what we accomplished in the first week. You know, especially we're way ahead of where we were this time last year. So yeah, our guys are here participating.
100%.
Close. 100% virtual.
But
The
the
virtual
workout,
components, yeah. We have most of the guys are here working out, 10 at a time.
In the draft process, what's it been like to be around people again, and do you get better discussions when everybody's face to face as opposed to people on a Zoom call, that you'll get better feels for what they want?
Well, first of all, my hat's off to Will and our crew the way we did it last year. I thought we adapted after this Zoom call. I mean, it was just getting invented. I think when the draft hit, and so I think we embraced it. We were all in, and I think we did a good job. I must say, I do think it's easier to do when you're in person, and certainly that's what we've been doing, and certainly following all the guidelines of the NFL in terms of our numbers. As Jerry said, you do have to be fully vaccinated to walk in to the draft room. So I just think we've done a great job with our preparation, and hopefully being able to interact and be together in the draft room is going to certainly help that. But we've also done meetings by Zoom, and we're able to do that as well. So I think we're versatile, and I think we'll make the most out of whatever the protocol and the mechanics are that the league requires us to work through.
Mike, back to the novice who's been here, how different does it feel from establishing a team culture standpoint to know Dak is on the roster stable and not some of the questions that were looming at this time last year when you two try and instill what you want around the team?
Well, I think the obvious is it's a quarterback position, so you want to be stable there. I think that's stating the obvious, but also the leader that he is. I mean, I look at Dak Prescott as the keystone to our football team. So, and I've always coached the team through the eyes of the quarterback, because that's just the way I believe you have to develop your football team. This is a quarterback league. I think that's been proven, especially with the rules changes and the way the field is tilted slightly to the offense. So, but yeah, it's great to have his contract situation intact, and I can't just say enough about you see him here every day. He puts a full day in, pretty much 4 days a week here. So he's having an excellent off season.
Is he fully cleared to do anything you'd want him to do, and it's up to what you guys let him to do?
He's full. I mean, he's Britt and Jim there's a program, and he's surrounded by an excellent medical in the strength conditioning component. He's right where he needs to be for this time. Like I said, I had a chance to witness the workout Saturday. I was very impressed with the progress he's making.
What impressed you about it?
I mean, just we're coming off the type of injury, and his footwork, and he's doing all the normal movements that you look to do in a quarterback school format this time of year.
Looney was your starting center at the beginning last season. He's a free agent now. Entering the draft, you look at your interior offensive line to round that group out. Are you envisioning a center potentially could start there, or is Tyler Biadasz your guy, and you're thinking more of a versatile center/guard who could be behind him?
Is that for me? Yeah, I think number one, you're trying to develop the obviously the full roster, but definitely particularly offensive line. I don't think you ever pass on offensive linemen, particularly from a depth standpoint. Just look at our experience last year. I mean, that's an illustration that tells you the importance of all positions, but it definitely changes the way you play when you lose, or the way you have to play when you lose tackles. So as far as the center position, the development of that whole group is something I think with the 10 picks, I would not be surprised if we do select a lineman in the draft.
Do you envision Tyler Biadasz as your starting center week 1, or is that still, let's wait and see where you are?
Well, he's running with the ones right now. I mean, that's it. But we don't have practice yet, so.
Jerry, how much do you talk to your employees and maybe players about getting vaccinated?
And again, finish that conversation. I'm really having a difficult time with the mask. Yeah.
How much do you talk to your employees and your players about getting vaccinated?
Very much. Any chance I get. And but seriously, we are unabashed about encouraging everyone to get the vaccine. It certainly will enable us to not have anybody that should become ill, that might have become ill. But more important than anything, it's important that we use body language, or we use what we're doing, that we're back to normal. And we're going to have a fight this on the 8th that we could have 65, 70,000 out there. And I've invited the entire team to be there. And but we need our vaccinations. And so my point is that to answer your question is without question, and the NFL, I can speak for the NFL, we're encouraging in every way we can. Obviously, we don't have the ability to say you do that in order to be with your teammates and with the team, or be with the staff at the player level because of our union bargaining. But absent that, we really feel strongly that it is in all of our best interest here in April to looking ahead to not only the fall, but looking ahead to the season, that we are pushing hard right now to get everybody vaccinated.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Gil. Thank you.